Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Devolved Elections drop-in show with myself and Willshakespeare. Hello, Will.
Good evening.
And how is everyone doing? We're going to have a little bit of a more kind of relaxed setting. Um, Everything should be a little bit more chilled out. We'll talk in more depth about what happened 2 nights ago with the devolved elections. We'll have facts and figures as always with Will, and we will be talking to guests, getting statements, and some inside scoops, some exclusives that not even Will knows about. Will, I've been teasing you for ages. Are you excited?
Yeah. Well, no, I'm more worried than anything else.
You should be. Okay, so let's just kind of take a second to go over exactly what happened. So, in Wales, the Welsh Liberal Alliance picked up 4 seats, and they have a multitude of coalition partners to look at, including Plaid, the Conservatives, Labour, and the Libertarian Party. We will have a statement from Wagbo given directly to Sky News in the upcoming moments. In Scotland, the Greens are still the largest party with 6 seats, closely followed and trailed by the Classical Liberals, and then again a multitude of possibilities with coalitions, including the Conservatives on 3, Labour on 2, Libertarians, the Social Democrats, and the Liberal Democrats on 1. And in Northern Ireland, the Ulster Unionists, as expected, picking up the most seats with 5. The Alliance Party and Labour closely behind on 2, with Sinn Féin and the new Irish Parliamentary Party on 1. Okay, so here's what we've got. An exclusive. We have the possibility of 2 governments being formed in Scotland. Now, if you've been doing any searching on Twitter, this is not a scoop. You will know that the Social Democrats have ruled out working with both the Greens and the Libertarian Party, which means that this would be the only possible formation of coalition partners to put Dunks into Bute House. However, there are some other possibilities that can be done. And one of those is a very odd looking coalition that we actually can confirm has been talked about between parties, and negotiations and potentially votes within internal parties can be taking place shortly. This is the Greens, Labour, Libertarians, and the Liberal Democrats perhaps working to secure some sort of TLC government, working, with some sort of CNS deal with the Libertarians. Yes. Now, we have a statement from Geordie himself, which says, "I'm pleased to say that I'm working open-mindedly this term with the Scottish Greens, Scottish Labour and Scottish Liberal Democrats in a confidence and supply agreement. This is because I feel we can put aside our ideological differences and work for what is best for Scotland. And if we are stuck in a bundle of ideology, we're only going to create an echo chamber for ourselves where we are unable to move forward and learn from our traditional opponents. As a result, working with parties of a different nature to ourselves allows this open-mindedness to roam free. So the people of Scotland not only have a government that has a majority in Parliament, which included us in the CNS to facilitate that majority, but are also not burdened by political cronyism and stubbornness. I talked quite briefly with the leader of the Classical Liberals in Scotland, and I'm pleased that we're on good terms heading into the new term. I'm happy to work with him and the remaining opposition parties when needs be, given that this is fundamentally a TLC government with a few libertarian policies thrown in here and there. It's a decision I'm sure will surprise a lot of you, but I wouldn't have done it if I thought it couldn't work. I want to give the TLC another shot, handling Scotland since the people of Scotland mandated that they should give it a go. And even if we think differently, why should we prevent the will of the Scottish people? We live in a democracy, you know. I'm sorry that the Social Democrats feel that they are not able to work with the Scottish Libertarians, but I hope reforms can help the party reach out to others to enable a better working relationship in the future. As a result, we are unable to engage in discussions with the Classical Liberals in their coalition. This is because the Social Democrats would rule them out. And where are we? Since there were segments within it that didn't want us involved, thankfully TLC are as open-minded as I am, and I'm happy that we've come to an agreement that satisfies everyone involved, and I'm pleasantly surprised that an agreement has been made so soon. I look forward to getting started with this confidence to supply agreement, and I wish all the best for Scotland in every capacity this term. Well, Shakespeare, your immediate thoughts?
Well, I'm just surprised. I was not expecting that, to be honest. I am sceptical that that's going to pass certain parties. It depends on the shape of the deal, I would imagine, on what has been offered to the Libertarians.
As you said, yeah, it's
but
a potential vote.
I'm sceptical that Labour is going to vote for it. As a former Labour leader, I'm very sceptical.
Right, this is just a potential deal that could happen. That's what we have to absolutely stress, that there are internal discussions. Liberal Democrats, as I can tell you, will have to vote on multiple deals, and every other party will deal with it in their own individual way. You would suspect that if the the Libertarian Party are involved, that Labour will have a vote.
Yeah, Labour, I think, has always voted on every time there's been a potential coalition agreement. So
exactly.
There will be.
And this isn't
even if it was just TLC, there would be a vote, unless the policy's changed since I left.
Yes, there's kind of two main takes. One being clearly the Libertarians are trying to be more central. They're trying to be more centrist. They're trying to be more open-minded, more, yeah, be more open-minded and more central. And then also, this another take is that this isn't uncharacteristic of Labour. They have always done deals with both sides. They did, I believe, Chapo, the old Scottish leader, did a deal with Dunks, and that was voted down. So this isn't, crazy.
And don't forget the Grand Coalition.
Absolutely, with the Conservatives and Labour. So this isn't. Yeah. It's a big deal, but it's potential. It could get voted down, and that'll be the end of it. One more thing. In fact, no. Let's get some guests on. Let's get two of the potential. In fact, the leader of the party in Scotland, Dunks, and the leader of the National Party, if he's around in a couple of minutes, Twisted Nook. Dunks, how are you?
I am doing well, thank you. How are you?
I'm very good. And Twisted, how are you?
Oh, sorry, hang on, I was having a bit of audio problems. Say that again.
How are you?
Ah, not bad, not bad.
You're here with Dunks and Will. How you finding the news?
I'm very surprised by that, to be quite honest. Truthfully, obviously the Greens will want to do a deal to keep them out of power. That's what they're a political party for. But I'm very surprised that, considering their record in the last government, considering that they have a record of extortionate taxes, considering that they have a record of racially abusing MSPs, they have a record of breaking the law, that any party are willing to work with them, never mind the Libertarian Party.
So, to clarify, is the proposal that it would keep the Greens in Butte House, or would they be replaced?
We haven't obtained the cabinet, although it looks like it would be a TLC government with a confidence to supply agreement with the Libertarian Party. So however that is formatted, you could say, well, if the Libertarians are involved, maybe the Greens aren't going to be walking in as First Minister, but also maybe because the Greens are the bigger party, and you see in Geordie's statement all about democracy and blah, 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 they could be First Minister also.
Well, my thoughts on this are that, realistically, there's two possibilities, because if it's Labour or the Lib Dems First Minister, it works out about the same. Which is either you have the Greens in Butte House, at which point you see a term of inactivity and chaos, or you see the Greens making a serious concession. Because if they're willing to concede that despite having the most seats, they don't take First Minister, that has seriously undermined them in the future. So it's short-term gain, long-term pain.
And not to mention the fact they've also, according to their leaders' interview, agreed that Thanek would not serve in the cabinet due to his sectarian comments in the last term. So that would be two major concessions there, which I can't see any reasonable political party.
I mean, realistically, I can't see it being Greens, just because I feel Geordie's clearly an oddball with the Libertarians. It is quite out of step with the Westminster Party. But I think even he would start to balk at the idea.
Well, it's, as we said, it's potential. There's votes to be held. Dunks, you will obviously be in talks as well. How are the talks with your side and getting a classical Liberal First Minister going?
I think they've gone extremely well. We have an agreement which is just about to be formalised. That agreement provides a set policy that Scotland needs. It allows us to move on from the division of the Greens, and it allows us to implement real change as we promised in our manifesto. My hope is that in whatever votes this agreement needs to go through, that it can get through, and it can get through ahead of this really weird coalition of chaos the Greens have assembled.
Yes, and so that's the dramatic news in Scotland. Lots of fun, lots to have. Who knows what will happen? Let's move to Wales quickly, if this works. Here it is. Statement from the Welsh Liberal Alliance First Minister, WAPO. The Welsh Liberals have been talking to Assembly members from other moderate unionist parties and are working hard to strike a deal that will form a stable government committed to creating opportunities for our poorest and fighting in Wales's corner. So that's WAPO there, ruling out working with the Plaid Cymru party. And that's that. So, I mean, nothing to be surprised about there, Will.
No, not really. No, it's the same as last term. The Welsh Liberal Alliance and Plaid Cymru are clearly the two biggest parties in Wales. They're the two parties that have this election been vying for the position of First Minister, and that doesn't look set to change. It doesn't look like either is going to put that desire aside in order to work with the other.
Okay, so we don't have Dunks for long, so let's talk to you guys before we get into the numbers properly. Okay, so Dunks and Swizzard, both of you weren't here. Let's talk about Northern Ireland first. In fact, let me jump to the results so that everyone can see. Yes, Northern Ireland. So the Alliance Party gained one. First of all, what are your takes from the 2 nights ago now, the results?
Well, it's a complex one, because what's worth noting is that while we did gain, neither of the MLAs we had elected was our party leader. So Esteban 06 stood. He stood for re-election. He was an MLA in last term, and he lost his seat. And in his place, I've been elected as the MLA for Belfast West, and then Count Brandenburg has been elected for Belfast East. So it's quite an interesting situation, because that means that we're no longer able to put forward Dylan as our candidate for First Minister, and we will be standing a candidate for First Minister, and we fully intend to play to win.
Why do you think that the former classical Liberal members, who used to be members of the classical Liberals in Northern Ireland, did much better than those members who were in alliance before?
I think it's down to a more organised campaign. I mean, we had a common campaign infrastructure, but I do think the organisation of our individual campaigns did vary somewhat.
Do you think it had anything to do with other voters punishing the previous alliance members for merging with a unionist party, and you former classical Liberals, attracted some of the unionist voters who went away from the UUP?
Well, I mean, on the point of classical Liberals attracting unionist voters, I don't really care to comment. If people are voting for us thinking that we're going to somehow be soft unionists, then they're going to be disappointed. We're not unionists anymore in Northern Ireland. We've renounced that position. On the point of punishment, I could see that, but I hope it isn't the case, because I don't think we should be that sceptical about parties joining forces and wanting to work together, because I think that's quite positive.
And Dunks, in Scotland, how come the Libertarian Party has gone to this possible extreme? What led to the Libertarian Party doing this, do you think?
So the Libertarian Party are obviously their own political party, but I believe that it would have been their ideal to get some kind of broad right agreement in place, but the results wasn't going to permit that. The result was going to be one short, and so we need to work with Liberal Democrats, we need to work with the SSD, and both those parties I don't think are particularly keen on libertarian policies. And so what we need to do at that point was effectively decide we can either sit in opposition and be and work for Libertarians there, or we can go into government and see what we can do for all of Scotland. And so I think that, but in terms of why they've gone for the Greens, it's a very, very bizarre decision. I've mentioned before, I'll mention it again. The Greens raise taxes in Scotland. Tax rate in Scotland, the top tax rate is currently 65%. Now, a few terms ago, me and the Libertarian leader at the time had a competition over who would offer the largest tax cut. So it is very, very bizarre to see them openly endorsing and willing to support a party which has hiked taxes that dramatically in Scotland already.
All right. Dunks, we won't keep you for any longer because I know you had to go. So thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you.
Okay. So there you go. That is Dunks, for the leader of the Classical Liberal delegation to the Scottish Parliament, or the Scottish Classical Liberals. They're having a lovely chat with us. Okay, Zukov, we have Zukov here, the leader of the Welsh Conservatives. I don't have him muted this time. Okay, Zukov, how are you?
Oh, I'm fine, thank you.
Okay,
How
so
about you?
you've seen Wagbo's statement. I assume we could maybe try and pry some scoops out of you here. Are you talking to the Welsh Liberal Alliance? If you are, how are things going?
Well, look, we're in a coalition negotiation period right now. I don't think it would be appropriate to divulge any. I don't think did he make that statement live? Because just inquiring, did he make that Did Wagbo make the statement live?
And it's written, but it was given to me, so that it was an exclusive.
Oh, all right. Okay, can I know what?
It is
generally
on
what
the
was said
screen
mentioned?
as you talk now, so hopefully in about 10 seconds you'll be... Oh wait, no, wrong one, this one. All
right.
Here it is. Basically just says that he's pleased to work with moderate unionist parties.
Yeah, you know, we're going to be happy to work with. I think last term we had an extraordinary term in the Senate because I think all the parties, from LPUK to Plaid Cymru, we all worked very constructively together. And I think there was no really partisan bickering. So I think it was a very good term last term, and I appreciate his call for for that to continue. And I'm glad that he's doing that.
Were you not paying attention when we had the government collapse and the leader of Welsh Labour put into place, despite having the least amount of popular support out of all the three parties?
I'm aware that was a terrible.
It's not exactly bickering free, is it?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying when it comes to legislation and when it comes to motions, right? Like when it comes to legislation and motions, there was very little partisan bickering, as far as I saw. Of course, when it came to like the first ministership, like that was yeah. I think Welsh Labour and Plaid Cymru suffered terribly for doing that, for replacing a competent first minister with a person who left Welsh politics right after her tenure. I think the Welsh Labour has gone down terribly. I think Plaid Cymru has gone down terribly, and they honestly deserve it. They didn't respect the will of the voters, and that's what they got.
Twisted.
I would agree with that assessment.
Yes, Twisted. There has been a sweep of Liberal voters coming out 2 nights ago. It looks like some way or another, the Lib Dems or the Classical Liberals or some sort of liberal centrist party is going to be in government. So comparing to Westminster, why?
Is this in Wales?
Across the board.
Well, in Wales specifically, liberalism having a strength in Wales isn't exactly a new concept. It's been that way for about 100 years now. We had a bit of a failing in recent years, but that's certainly been reinvigorated. I mean, the Welsh Lib Dems, on behalf of the Welsh Liberal Alliance, have a sizable strength in Westminster. They absolutely swept the board, nearly wiping out Plaid in the last election. So I don't think that's a new development. In Scotland, this has been a very slow transition. I mean, it's quite impressive just how badly the Greens have damaged their own brand. Because I remember seeing an interview that was done during the campaign of a former Yes voter who was voting for the Classical Liberals. The Greens have been given all the goodwill in the world. They could have held Scotland for 10 years, and they've squandered it, and they've run a chaotic government. They've botched every order they've done. They decided to nationalise hospitals in days with no planning. They completely botched the Perth Edinburgh Railway. They've got a racist in Butte House. You know, it's textbook on how not to run a government. You couldn't run the government worse. So I think it's quite astonishing just how much damage they've done to themselves. And in Northern Ireland, well, Northern Ireland's a mess. You know, I think that's the best way of summarising it, because Northern Ireland, the dynamics are very different because they're non-consensual coalitions, because they're decided by vote of the assembly, not by backroom deals. So it's a non-consensual coalition. So that's slightly different.
Okay.
Why do you?
On you go, please.
Why do you think the Welsh Liberal Alliance's leader lost his seat on Sunday night? Why do you think, even though the Welsh Liberal Alliance did extremely well across the country, Wagbo was dealt a personal blow at home?
I don't really know. You know, to be frank, my role is oversightory. I'm not deeply versed in the political strategy. I'm not deeply engaged in a particularly strong understanding of shall we say Welsh local issues. That's why I'm not standing in Wales. So I can't really comment, is the honest answer.
Okay, so big news. The TLC LPUK government deal has been leaked. Fun times.
Oh my god.
Well, that took about 15 minutes.
Let's take a look, shall we? It's financing the economy at 60% top rate. We have...
Oh, you're leaking the whole thing?
It's been leaked.
That's a big dick move.
I didn't leak it. Don't put this on me.
Let's have a read. I want to do a live reading.
We are doing it. This is exactly what we're doing.
60% top rate. Ooh.
This was leaked.
Well, it was top rate before.
So I can dry my hands because it seems like they're covered in blood right now. HK of the Social Democrats has tweeted this. This is in the air.
Is the current rate 75?
The current rate is 65.
65.
So that'd be a 5% cut.
So given it's the Libertarians have agreed to just a 5% cut in the top rate tax, which
that's
seems
amazing that they've agreed.
very surprising.
Considering they're the most anti-tax party in the United Kingdom, you'd think, they'd ask for a bit more.
Yes,
I mean, it's interesting, but I don't see where they're getting the money. That's the problem they're going to find.
Well, I mean,
This government's not going to last.
If they had the Conservatives in place to effectively be a sugar daddy in Westminster, I'd understand. They could funnel more money into the block grant. I'd get it, but that's not the case. That's not the case here.
Just reading through past the policy section, big news is that they are offering the Liberal Democrats First Minister.
Wait, what?
What? Wait, okay.
The agreement has under cabinet the First Minister listed as a Liberal Democrat and Deputy First Minister as Green.
Yes, that's correct.
What is happening?
I mean,
so that we were talking about that just a minute ago. How extraordinary it would be if they agreed to that, and they have. I think what's happening here is the Green Party know they're a party on the back foot. They're a party that has been in decline now for 2 elections in a row, and they know that this is the price for them to keep dunks out of office, so to speak.
I see. Foreign Affairs Cabinet. I see that the Scottish Government will continue to operate in reserved matters. Nice. Okay.
It appears to be a list of a lot of spending.
It's a lot of spending and a lot of tax cuts.
Tax cuts. And as Twisted says, it one of the big questions that's going to face this government is where is the money coming from?
I mean, I imagine what they're going to try and do is they're going to try and play with LVT. Because that's what happened. That was sort of when Toast in Russian was writing his Bailey's budget. Then that was the great sort of solution, and so he put LVT up so high it damn near crashed the housing market.
I think we were going to try. We should try and get somebody from perhaps the Libertarians in, so that we can ask them about this agreement.
Well,
about the
whilst
rates.
Yes, if anyone wants to come on from, hold on one second.
That's the big question that is going to face the Libertarians.
Yes, so if anyone wants to come on from the Libertarian Party, feel free. You're all welcome. Just so because I'm here. If you want to ask, whatever. I'm happy to say, in my capacity as Scottish Liberal Democrat leader, I made a commitment to Geordie to work across the chamber and make as many and the best deals as I could for Scotland. And my intention was to put it back to the membership. That's the right thing to do. That's the democratic thing to do. So I have working with Dunks, a deal that's on place with the Tories and blah 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 blah. But there's also the possibility of a TLC deal. Now, if I was to have backed that, we need something substantial. So, First Minister is pretty substantial.
I mean,
Well, yes, absolutely. Which do you prefer?
Oh, absolutely. Which do I prefer?
Which do you prefer out of the two potential deals?
Phew,
Which is your favourite?
Look, it was great fun being First Minister, and the best job I've ever had. If I do have a vote, I would probably pick the Dunks deal. I think Holyrood needs a change, but alright, calm down. I don't know. The thing is, nobody's seen the Dunks deal, so it could be a barrel of crap. We're just looking at this here as it first comes out. I don't know. I think
So we're
there's.
trying to get.
well, I must come in. I've seen the Dunk deal, and believe me, it is tremendous.
It's to believe me, it's tremendous.
The biggest
Speaking
deal
in
in all of
an unbiased.
Hey, you're the one who started invoking Trump with your tremendous deal.
I make the best deals, as you can see.
But, I mean, the thing is, I would say that fundamentally the Scottish Liberal Democrats are going to be voting on two things. They'll be voting on Dunks in Butte House now, or voting on Dunks in Butte House in 2 months' time when the TLC collapses.
Look,
Because the TLC always collapses. It's just collapsed in Westminster a few months ago. It's collapsed before that. We've had TLC governments collapse. We've had TLC oppositions collapse. They never last because what always happens is the Greens go rogue.
Well, but the thing
You
is
know,
with the
it's
Greens is
happening.
that the Greens have been solid. They've been a solid force in government in Holyrood for 3 terms now, 4 terms. So although they may go rogue in Westminster or something like that, TLC is not bad. Nobody's saying TLC is bad. This is just odd.
Well, yes, I am saying TLC is bad. Because
Okay,
it's
well,
dangerously
fine.
TLC
unstable.
constantly fails. It fails every time it's tried.
Well, no. The only TLCs that have succeeded in recent years have been ones in Scotland. There were 3 terms of TLC. Sorry, 2.5 terms. Half when
2.5
we became First Minister, the Liberal Democrats pulled out in that occasion. So the only TLCs that have succeeded in recent years are the ones that have actually been led by the Green Party, which might tell you something about the attitudes of the Green Party when they're not leading the TLC.
Yeah. Also, I can't say that defending the TLC by describing the time when it wasn't the Greens that pulled out and it was instead the Lib Dems tells you all the.
I'm not defending the TLC. I'm just putting some facts out there that the only time that the TLC hasn't failed has been when the Greens have been leading it.
Look,
No,
nobody
you
wanted
just said
to.
the only time it hasn't failed is when the Lib Dems pulled out of it. I would consider that a failure.
No.
Well, but it went 2 terms as a success.
Yeah.
Is my point.
Yes.
And then it failed. So there was 2 terms of a successful TLC government until the Lib Dems pulled out, and on that occasion that was.
I mean,
the
think
Lib Dems
about
pulling out rather than the Green Party.
the policies in Holyrood, like the NHS salaries bill, stuff like that. That was just transformational in Scottish politics. Could we be returning to a time like that? Perhaps. Will I be backing that? I'm not sure. Looking at the deals, I prefer the Dunks deal. Of course, I'd love to be First Minister again. But looking at the deals as it stands,
First Minister to be the First Minister from 2 different parties.
well, there you go, right? It's all very nice for me,
Okay.
but is it nice for Scotland? Is it nice for the party? Well, it's okay. Is the
Can
Dunks
I
deal
ask you a
better?
question? Will?
Of course you can.
So will Aljav be Deputy First Minister in this deal?
I'm not sure.
Because it says it's the Greens.
Well, it'll be whoever the Green leader is.
Okay, so assuming the Greens don't change that leader, does that mean you will be serving with a racist? Because Aljav said in response,
He said
to
go back to
Dunks,
England to Dunks.
England. So are you comfortable serving with a racist?
I don't know if it's racist to say go back to England.
It is absolutely
It is.
racially
It's anglophobic.
that is a racially aggravated comment. It's horrendous.
That's like
If I said in the House of Commons go back to Scotland to a Scottish Green MP,
I'd say that's Scotiaphobia.
you would crucify me for it.
Well, of course,
if someone
I
said go back to
absolutely.
Africa-
Absolutely.
Well, hold on. I have absolutely disagreed with the comments that Al made publicly. I've already done that on Twitter. Al has already apologised. He said that it would not happen again. Will Al be the leader when when we walk in, or do walk in, perhaps walk in, not walk in, who knows what happens with the votes. Who knows? I don't know who the leader it will be. Who knows? It's all
would
up
you
in
be
the air.
comfortable serving with him?
Would I be comfortable serving with Al? I've served with Al before. He's a great MSP. He's a great health secretary. Do I think that his comments were okay? Absolutely not.
You think he's great health? Do you support his policy on the hospitals of forcibly nationalising them within a week?
Well, I was First Minister when that was submitted in stage 1. I asked the cabinet not to submit it. I
Are
said,
the Scottish Liberal Democrats comfortable with that?
no, not at all. Not at all. We'll be looking to change that under, working with the partners on the classical liberals and so on and so forth. Who knows what will happen? What could happen is that this deal gets voted down, and that's the end of it. We have today, and that's it.
Do the Greens support that?
Do the Greens support what? Us not supporting the hospitals?
Yes.
Well, they won't have a choice. There's a majority against it now.
Remind me, what party will your Health and Social Security Secretary be?
Health and Social Security will be Green, by the looks of it.
So you will be voting against the policy of your Health and Social Care Secretary?
Absolutely.
Coalition of chaos.
Okay, Will has lots of numbers to get to. I promised him we would.
Oh, that's an easy way to get out.
I'm happy to. I'm happy to continue talking.
I don't mind
this.
waiting. You can carry on.
All right, I'm happy to talk with this all night. Let's get some more guests on. There are 2 people waiting in the elevator. Well, why don't you ask one if they want to come on?
Okay, would you like me to do numbers now, or?
Well, let's get one of the guests on. You can pick PM and ask them if there's.
Are we removing someone? Are we telling someone to leave?
I mean, there's 5 slots. They can stay.
Okay.
I'm happy to talk about this all night. I think that the Dunks deal is a better deal overall. A better deal. Will I be voting for it? I don't know what I'll vote for. I'll wait till the votes come out. The votes will be coming out, I believe, tonight or tomorrow. They're both... The deals that I negotiated are both that I believe are best that I could get. The best deals I could get with both sides of the house. So one side being... the Dunks being First Minister, and the other side being Dunks not being First Minister. Did I negotiate the best deals? In my opinion, I did what I could. I tried my hardest, and now it's up to the Liberal Democrat membership to choose who are they going to back. Are they going to back Dunks, or are they going to back the TLC? And there we go. That's what's going to happen. What I personally think doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things, because it goes to a vote to the membership. So, glad we got that sorted.
I'm going to bring in Vlad. I can't remember his full
Vlad the
name.
Lad.
I am Vlad the Lad. Vlad the Lad, that's the one. I was going to call him Vlad the Impaler.
That's a terrifying name. He is muted, so hopefully he can sort that. Yes, Vlad the Lad is a shadow cabinet member for the official opposition.
Yep.
Liberal Democrat. How are you, Vlad?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, what would you like to talk about? Northern Ireland seems to be something that interests you.
Yeah, because of course I ran sadly unsuccessfully in Northern Ireland, but I was quite close to getting elected. Yeah.
Let's
it's a tricky
bring up the results. Here they are. Resume slideshow. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, so Northern Ireland. What do you make of the results?
Interesting. They're a departure from conventional sectarianism. Even with the result for the IPP, which is a very good result for them, it shows that people are that even nationalist voters are leaving conventional sectarianism behind in the past, and it's that's basically what I make of it.
And who do you think will be the First Minister and the Deputy First Ministers in Northern Ireland, if you were to put a bet on it?
Oh, I'd love to say Count Brandenburg. I think he's got a very good chance. So is FPS. It's really difficult to say, but I think Count Brandenburg has probably the best chance, in my opinion, of becoming First Minister.
And there's a new force in Irish politics, being the Irish Parliamentary Party. Are you excited to work with them?
Yeah, we've talked to them a bit, and yeah, really excited to work with them, and it's looking to be very promising.
Let's take a look at Twitter, shall we? If I can scroll up far enough.
Oh,
because
it's a mess.
This is where
It's
it
a
all
mess.
goes downhill.
Oh yeah, you don't want to look.
Scotland is a mess right now.
Oh,
Right,
actually, can we talk about something really important?
Okay.
You thought Northern
This
Ireland
bloody
was bad?
timer limit on Twitter.
Oh my
Oh,
god.
it's a nightmare, isn't it?
I'm seriously considering putting some cross-partisan legislation forward to ban it.
To ban Twitter from doing that.
Yes,
Isn't
to legally
that-
require
isn't
them
that
to have a
Meta, though?
fast limit.
I would back
What's
that
Meta?
cross-party legislation.
Is it?
This
Meta?
is far more important than what's going on in Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland. The fact
Oh,
that
I
Twitter
agree.
Is,
But do you know the one
ruining
issue that trumps all of that? It's the hat.
Oh no. Wait, we can't talk about that.
Hang on, no, this is breaking the fourth wall. The
Yeah,
fourth
can't
wall
talk
is
about
not
that.
right.
Oh yeah, sorry.
No, don't worry. All four walls are intact.
Yep.
The studio's good, although that's not really a wall, is it? It's just sort of like
Yeah,
a
including the
Oh,
door.
area with
don't-
lots
don't
of
get back to the
cameras.
door, please.
Right.
All four
From
walls are good.
Moving swiftly past that.
Veljo from the Labour Party. Sad to see the Libertarian Party attempting to get rid of their Scottish leader, who genuinely seems to be trying to collaborate with other parties to get rid of the toxic reputation. If they did the same in Westminster, people might take them seriously.
Oh, you know what? You know what we should call this new coalition? Sorry.
Are you going to say the Shitebag Coalition?
No, the traffic light shitebag coalition. I've just been past that by Trev.
Traffic Shitebag Coalition.
Traffic
Well,
shite-
look. When we think
Traffic
about
light
it, look, Geordie is a good Scottish leader in that he is trying to. When you talk about the devolved elections,
Yeah.
generally the parties tend to be a bit more moderate in their leanings. Almost every party tends to be a bit more moderate than their Westminster party. Now the problem is Geordie went too fast, right? He made some good initial reforms. What he should have done was just realize, look, I belong in the LPUK. The LPUK has certain, ideals, like for example, not working with the Greens, who are, I mean, as in not going to government with Greens, working with them. Working with them would have given him a good image, but like going into government with a left-wing party, that's like,
I mean,
that's
could
it's
I
not. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
basically the Greens are the kind of polar opposites of the political compass to the libertarian. Is really kind of weird to see that going on, and that definitely won't last. So yeah, continue.
I think Geordie really is trying to reach out. I have a lot of sympathy for him in that, because I think he genuinely does want to create a less toxic image. The problem is he's just brought back the toxicity that was no longer there. Yesterday, when he released the first press release, when he was sort of like talking about, oh, we're going to reform the LPUK, we're gonna reach out to other parties. Well, I'm pretty sure reach out didn't mean go into government with them. like there's a difference. There's a subtle difference, but there's a difference.
I can understand his reasoning, because the big problem the LPUK have in Westminster is they've got themselves into a corner. Because they thoroughly alienated us in the Clibs. Because they've pushed through, frankly, insane policies. They've legalised tear gas. They've disenfranchised a whole group of young people. It's quite astonishing. So they've pretty thoroughly alienated us. So now they're in the position of the only people they can really work with is the Tories. So the Tories will probably do very well in the next election. That's what the polling's indicating. But that puts them in a really weak position, because their options are effectively a Tory deal or no deal. They can't play off against people. So what Geordie's trying to do is he's trying to get the Scottish Libertarians in a position where they can kingmake, where they can pick between deals. And that's what Labour's always done in Scotland, and they've always done very well out of it, because it becomes credible that they'll walk away. Now, if the Libertarians end up as sort of a wing of the classical Liberals well within their orbit, as they become effectively a wing of the Tories in Westminster, then that's going to seriously weaken them. So if I was in Geordie's shoes, I'd probably be trying to do the same thing. But the problem is whether the Westminster leadership will let him do it, because Fried keeps a very tight hand on his devolved parties, much tighter than I keep on our devolved parties. And so I just can't see this not getting vetoed.
Yes, very interesting indeed. For those who have just joined us, you're watching Sky News. It's 5 to 8. You're here for the post-devolved election drop-in show with Willshakespeare and Weebrew. I'd like to thank our guests, Twisted and Zukov236, for joining us. You both have been excellent.
Yep.
Thank you very
Thank
much. Woo! Okay. Shall we run through some numbers?
Let's run through some numbers. Have you got the table?
Here is the table, F11. I have the Scotland results on the screen now, if you'd like to talk about them.
Excellent. So, hang on, where is it? Yes, sorry. So as you can see from the table that is on the screen, the Green Party did not have a good night in Scotland on Sunday night. The interesting thing there was that they did far better in the constituency vote than they did in the regional list vote. So they only dropped by 4.12% in the constituency vote and 10.91% in the regional vote. Now they had more regional vote last time than they did this time. But what is interesting is that they held on in every seat in which they were the incumbent where they stood. The only exception was in Highlands and Islands, where they stepped aside and endorsed the Scottish Liberal Democrats, who then took the seat off of them with their endorsement. The classical Liberals, interestingly, did not have the sort of surge that they might have been hoping. They did well. They gained a seat, but their constituency vote actually dropped ever so slightly by 0.34%. Well, their regional vote increased. The Scottish Conservatives had a very good night, and they went from the fourth biggest party to the third, increasing their vote by getting an extra seat and 1.45% more of the constituency vote, 4.94% more than the regional vote. Scottish Labour had a terrible night, and they dropped by 12.74% of the vote and 8.61%. They actually did worse than the Greens did in terms of the damage that they were dealt, which I think has a lot to do with the level of activity that Scottish Labour have shown over the last few weeks, as well as what was a pretty lacklustre campaign, and a feeling that a vote for them was a vote for another 6 months of Scottish Green government. So a lot of soft unionists went over to the Conservatives and the classical Liberals, who this time round de-emphasised the issue of the union. Scottish Libertarians went up ever so slightly. Nothing major. It's clear why Geordie feels the need that the Scottish Libertarians need some reforms, because they were predicted a second seat, they didn't get it. The Social Democrats had an excellent night. Their first election, they actually leapfrogged over the Liberal Democrats
Crazy.
to win 9.44% of the constituency vote and 7.19% of the regional vote. I'd like to have a look at some of the most interesting seats.
Before you do, sorry
Yes.
to interrupt you, we have a tweet from the leader of the Libertarian Party, which has now been deleted, but we have it, so we'll read it out. The LPUK will not be entering any traffic light coalition. I can categorically rule that out. We will not be working with the Green Party. The LPUK will not be supporting will not support someone proposing socialist policy in Butte House, and will not put in a left-wing executive. The LPUK leadership was unaware of such talks were taking place until about 10 minutes ago, and can confirm this coalition will not be happening.
Wow. Okay, well, so for about 20 minutes, there was a deal, but it is now off the table. Can I carry on with the numbers?
Absolutely.
So I want to take a look at some of the most interesting seats from election night, from Sunday night. I've been doing a bit of digging into some of the ups and downs that parties experienced across a number of the key seats. I'd like to start with Highlands and Islands, because it's a very interesting case where the Greens, as mentioned, they stepped aside and endorsed the Liberal Democrats. The classical Liberals had a slight drop on their previous performance. They went down by 0.34% of the vote, a very, very tiny drop. The swing in that seat is either, it depends how you want to measure it. If you are going to include the previous Green performance as part of the Liberal Democrats because they endorsed, then it was a 0.25% swing from the classical Liberals to the Liberal Democrats / the Greens. If you were to do it as the Liberal Democrats being a new entry, it would be a 42.78% swing from the Greens to Liberal Democrats, which is the biggest swing we saw across Scotland on Sunday night. The second biggest swing we saw was in Ayrshire, which was a Scottish Labour seat. I won it at the last election for the party. Labour had a really bad result here. They dropped 18.7% of the vote down to just 31.7%. The LPUK surged up by 39% of the vote. In the end, it was a swing here from Labour to Libertarians of 29%, which is a number that's going to worry Labour because this was a fairly safe seat. They won just over 50% of the vote here at the last election. They had a similar issues in Dumbarton, where they had a 14.1% swing against them to the Conservatives. They dropped the Conservatives went up by 18.6%, and Labour went down by 9.6%. So a very good result for the Conservatives. Another bad result for Labour because there were a lot of very bad numbers. This one was slightly better. They held on to Dumbarton and Renfrew with 54% of the vote. That was actually up slightly on the last election by 1.3%. The Libertarians went up by 11%, however, so it was a 6.1% swing from Labour to the LPUK. In Glasgow is a safe Green seat. There was no risk of that falling. It was 50.7% of the vote. That's actually up slightly by 0.8% from the last election when they won 49.9%. So now they've got a majority in Glasgow. The Scottish Social Democrats actually came second here. They surged up by 23.8%, overtaking the second place Classical Liberals on 23.3%, with a 12.3% swing from the Greens to the Scottish Social Democrats. There was only one seat in which, there was one important seat in which the Greens had a swing to the Classical Liberals, and that was in Angus, Perth and Stirling, actually, which they had no chance of taking, but it was a slight swing. Sorry, it was a swing from the Greens to the Clibs. I think I said that, didn't I? 6.2% swing to Dunk's 11. On the national share of the vote, it was, as you can see on the table, it was 26.92% for the Green Party. There was a national swing of 2.23% from the Greens to the Classical Liberals. And on the regional vote, there was an 11.4% swing from the Greens to the Liberals, a bigger swing away from them, owing mostly due to the bigger drop in the share of the vote for the Greens on the regional list, and also a slight increase for the Classical Liberals, which they didn't experience the constituency vote. If you want to compare the two regions, there was an 11.4% swing. Sorry, it was a 7.33% swing nationally from the Greens to the Clibs. 11.4% on the northern list in Highlands, Tayside and Fife from the Greens to the Classical Liberals. And on the Strathclyde and the Borders list, there was actually a 9.09% from Labour to the Green Party. Labour dropped here by 10.85%. While the Greens also dropped, but by less than Labour, and remained the largest party in this region. So overall, there was a 7.33% swing from the Greens to the Classical Liberals on the regional list vote.
Whew. Lots of numbers.
Lots of numbers. The big takeaways are what all of those show is that the Classical Liberals did not experience the sort of surge they would have wanted. They had smaller swings in their constituencies that led to an overall drop in their constituency vote. They lost votes in they lost votes They gained votes from the Conservatives and the Greens in Aberdeen, Angus, Perth, and Stirling. But overall, they failed to make much of an impact in the constituency.
All right, let's bring on some new guests then. Joining us is the former leader of the Scottish Liberal Democrats and current Social Democrat, C. Dorker. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you.
C. Dorker, you were leader of the Scottish Liberal Democrats a few days ago.
I was, yes.
So what do you make of all this stuff that's going on in Scotland?
I don't think it's incredibly surprising because I think we knew from the offset that roughly these two groups were going to form. I think what is surprising is just the sort of extent that the LPUK seems to have no idea what one arm is doing. I mean, when you're at the point where a deal gets leaked and about a few minutes later there's a motion of no confidence being filed in the leader. That's not a great sign.
There is.
Of the leadership. That means that they must not know what deals their leader is even negotiating, which is a good sign, and B, they have absolutely no faith in the leader to secure negotiations, which is really bad at a point like this to have your membership go, no, we don't actually trust you to make any deals. We'd like you out, please.
Wow.
How does it feel to have nearly possibly been First Minister for 20 minutes had you not been expelled?
I mean, looking through the deal, which I have in front of me at the moment, it's quite similar to what I would go for in many ways. I think whoever is in charge of whatever Scottish government gets formed, God help them, because they've got before them not only a Holyrood that's incredibly divided, but an ever more tense relationship between Holyrood and Westminster. We've got increasingly the welfare devolution results that I'm on the commission. Obviously, I have put forward my appeals to the commission, and that will get published soon. But I just find it fascinating how the radical unionist groups in Westminster, like the Tories, like the LPUK, have somehow managed to make it seem like there should be this massive debate over welfare devolution. Well, we had a vote. Is that not the thing you usually have at the end of debates? We had a vote. The people said what they wanted. And, last time the Tories had a vote, they didn't seem overly keen to have people scrutinise that vote incredibly intensely. And anytime somebody tried to, and somebody tried to prevent the result of that referendum, they got rounded up on by the Tories who wanted to pursue their Brexit vision. But now the people want welfare devolution, suddenly they're risking breaking up the country. I think it's a bit of hypocrisy on the Tory side.
Whew. Yes, that is a fair point. We can all agree, though, that Weber makes the best deals, right?
Oh, he makes the best deals.
Believe me.
Believe me.
What else is there that we could even possibly comprehend after this incredible night?
That's telling words. What could we comprehend?
What could the Doctor possibly comprehend?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, careful we don't leak anything. We have a tweet from the leader of the Social Democrats, your own Saunders. This really shows what a mess the LPUK are in Scotland. The National Party are Thatcherites, in the truest sense of the word, yet the Devolved Party took a bad election as a message to betray their values altogether. Scotland deserves better.
Of course, Saunders is the leader of the Social Democrats, who did extremely well on Sunday night.
How did they get 9% on the regional? That's crazy.
9%. They came second, as I noted earlier, in Glasgow.
Oh yeah.
They came second to the Greens, a swing to them of 12.3%. They also came second, I believe, in Lanarkshire with 26.1% of the vote. So they had a really good night. Their worst result was 9.69%, which, as a worst result, is still extremely good, especially for a brand new party.
To jump back to the
Conservatives' worst result, was 2.2%.
Oh right, okay, yeah.
That's indicative of how good the SSD's performance actually was. Yeah.
To jump back to the LPUK, do you think, Docra, that there's an issue, like, free to say that the LPUK leadership were not aware of this deal. However, you could argue that Geordie was the LPUK leadership in Scotland. Is there an issue there with Freed? Is Freed overstepping his mark? I don't know, I'm trying to pick at straws here, but as leader of the Scottish Libertarians, does he have the right to pursue this deal on his own?
I mean, a moment ago you said something quite telling when you said, what could we comprehend? And with the LPUK at the moment, what can we comprehend? We've got a deputy leader election where one of the frontrunners is just someone who's coming from an exclusion from the party, or temporary suspension, you know what I mean? You've got the Scottish leadership, which apparently, isn't allowed to do what it wants in Scotland, apparently, which, otherwise what's the point of the Scottish leadership, really? Just be like the classical liberals and pretend that it's all one thing. I don't know what's going on in the LPUK. I don't think either of you two know. I don't think Freed knows what's going on in the LPUK.
Well,
no one knows what's going on in the LPUK. It's utter chaos at the moment.
A bastion of knowledge has entered the studio.
Oh.
I'd love to welcome back Twisted
Well, he
Nick,
certainly knew more than I did when I was in cabinet with him.
the leader of the classical.
Still not a him, sweetheart.
Of course, if we want to, before we go to questions, if we want to hark back to 2 nights ago when we were talking about leaks and Willshakespeare made a joke at Docra, and Docra said that he had not been stabbed in the back by a friend this bad until Twisted was his deputy in the classical liberals. Yes, Twisted Nick, welcome back to the studio.
Well, yeah, I would go and ask Dylan how it feels to be stabbed in the back, because I think he's found out recently.
Oh!
That's now 2 streams in a row that Doc's been wrecked.
Docra, you're immediately.
I mean, you're stabbing, wouldn't you, Doctor?
I just like to comment how many Lib Dems have been demanding me to explain myself from the leaks, and I think that's quite amusing, because what you're asking really is for me to leak the reason that I felt it was necessary to leak.
Well, why don't
I
you?
just think that's amusing from the Lib Dems. Go, no, tell us everything. Why do you think the party's so bad it needs to be leaked? Why do you want me to say that?
Why did you feel the need to leak it then?
There's so much.
I think this is the first time acknowledged in public that you ever did in fact leak it. So there you go.
I think it's obvious, isn't it? We can play coy all we want, but obviously I leaked
I've been
it.
playing coy for
Wait,
days.
hold on 1 second. We have a Sky News exclusive. Docra admits to leaking the Shadow Cabinet.
Yeah, I thought it was Dylan leak.
I mean, it could have been any Liberal Democrat. They gave the whole list to the entire membership.
Except the one that
It
got.
could have been any Lib Dem that leaked to the Guardian, any of them.
Well, I mean, it only took 10 minutes for ex-Labour
Because every
members to
Lib
leak
Dem
the
is friends
coalition
with the
agreement in
Guardian.
Scotland.
Are you suggesting I haven't got loads of sources for the Liberal Democrat?
Yes, that's exactly what we're suggesting.
I mean,
You could say that. I couldn't possibly comment.
on this issue, just to point out the Shadow Cabinet leak, I jokingly said on Twitter, any Lib Dem could leak the Shadow Cabinet, to which a member of the Labour Party immediately responded, wait, what are you talking about? Lib Dems don't have it yet. To which I said, yes, they do. To which they got, well, they shouldn't. And, read into that what you will about the state of the party.
It's a sort
I'm
of leak
just saying,
upon leak,
what is
isn't it? Leakception.
Yeah, I'm just saying what was said on Twitter, and you can read into that what you want. I won't go any further.
Mamma mia. Alright, Twisted. So, you've had a little moment to collect yourself. What's on your mind?
Well, I wanted to hark back to what we talked about with the libertarians and their sort of disconnect.
I have the best questions. Come on.
Yeah, that was
This is a
a bit
hard-hitting
of a...
political interview.
Look, I am the king of softballs. If you remember back to, I think it was another drop-in show, and Wagbo was the prime minister, and he was under all this hell from the clubs. I asked him some really nice questions. I was like, "How's the weather and stuff?"
I'm asking analytical questions. You're just like, what's on your mind? Why are we here? Why is this
What's the meaning of life, Twisted?
Well, I mean, if you ask my boyfriend, he'll tell you that I do love softballs. What?
Oh God.
Ofcom is going to shut us down, Twisted.
Well, I'm just saying about my favourite sport.
Yeah, it's not been a good day for the last few days for the Guardian / Sky News.
But yes,
Anyway,
We've got a massive.
Are we going to talk about politics, or are we going to talk
yes,
about
let's
technicals?
rephrase the question. You, as leader of the Classical Liberals, your delegation in Scotland has an opportunity to walk into Butte House for the first time. It's been, years in the making. Dunkaroo could be finally First Minister. Now that the drama has subsided, what's on your mind?
What's on my mind?
See, I built it up and then asked the same question. Just quality.
Well, I mean, so sometimes I scream at night thinking of Doctor, and I strangle my pillow pretending it's him.
I don't know.
I genuinely think I may be completely insane. My campaign antics aren't just campaigning; I'm actually just insane. Let's see what else.
Would you like me to ask you an actual question?
Please do. Will.
Yes, I would like you to ask an actual question.
Okay, good. Why is it that you think the classical Liberals didn't necessarily have the cut through in Scotland that it was maybe thought that they did? So they dropped slightly in the constituency vote and had a medium rise in the regional vote. It was still a smaller increase than was enjoyed by the Tories.
Well, I mean, let's not be about the bush about it. We have suffered from a legacy of a not particularly good brand. We have a somewhat of a toxic legacy. We've worked very hard to undo that, and I think we've had a lot of success. We've got yes voters publicly supporting us now, which is, that's definitely an improvement. But we do have a toxic legacy that doesn't just go away.
So you think that obviously the union was?
Yeah, I mean, frankly, we've tried to shut up about the union because we think everyone needs to shut up about the union. The matter's settled. Let's not spend the next 50 years fighting over it. We don't want to become Northern Ireland.
That's contrary to your Scottish leader who says that no party can hold no view on the union. I mean, you guys are still unionists when it comes down to it.
Yeah, but we're not interested in talking about it. That's our beliefs, but that's not our policy, to put it.
Right.
We're not looking to start banging on about independence in the way the Greens have, because that's just not constructive.
So do you think your campaign in this time round was consciously trying to put the union issues to the back burner? So we saw the promise of renaming the government the executive was no longer a big promise as it was at the last election. Do you think it was part of a strategy to sort of broaden out your appeal to more
Absolutely, yeah. We fully appreciate that we can't operate as a niche party. Maybe when we started and we were small, fine, that might have worked. But if we want to actually govern, you have to present a set of policies you can actually get into government with. We're fully aware of this, and so we've had to adjust our tact.
Sorry, this is a very good discussion. I'm enjoying the answer. Who's eating?
What was that? Sorry, what you cut out?
Who's eating the crisps?
None of us.
I bet it's Doctor.
Why do you say that?
I was hearing Twisted's really good answers, and just this.
Why does the Guardian offer us free crisps?
There are free crisps.
You're in the Sky News studio, first of all.
I wasn't told about free crisps.
We'll sort out the free
crisps.
Oh dear.
Is that my packet of crisps you're eating, you little shit?
Oh no, there's another bill. From Ofcom.
I just thought they were giving me 2 crisps and one of them was labelled Twisted in an offhand joke.
What, because you're that much of a fat bastard, you need 2?
Listen, Twisted, I don't appreciate that.
This is like Doctor's defection point 2. 2.0.
All of the feelings are just coming out on sitting in the room.
Fight.
I'm still bitter.
Why
are you bitter? You're not the one. No,
Liberal Alliance 2, Sky News Boogaloo.
We're not doing this, Twisted. We're not. Unless you want to do this here.
Fuck it. Let's go. Bring me my boxing gloves.
I think Weebrew and I would rather we didn't do this.
Bring me my boxing gloves.
Quick, somebody think of a question.
Queen's rules. Stick up.
Anything?
Let's get the boxing gloves.
To ask a question. I think I've got a question. I could ask a question.
If you've got a question, then fire away.
Okay. To either of you, do you think that the established parties have a reason to fear the Social Democrats?
Oh God, yes.
I mean, I don't have a vested interest in the answer to this question, obviously.
Obviously.
Oh God, yes, we do. Like,
I mean,
even the classical Liberals.
Oh God, yes. Just look at the election results. Like, that explosion of size, that's clearly their message was all about discontentment with the status quo. Well, I'll tell you what, they've hit onto something. That explosion doesn't just come out of nowhere, especially when you look at their pre-election polling. They have really tapped into discontentment with the status quo in Scotland.
Yes, I can tell you that they started the campaign polling at one point at 6%. By the end of the campaign, in the regional vote, they got 7.19%, which is a massive increase. It's an increase of 5.59%.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely established parties are starting to fear for that, because that is an indicator of a lot of discontentment. And I think that if we get into government, we'll be able to do something about that, because I think a lot of the discontentment does come from the image of the Greens picking fights and the Clibs giving them one, frankly. I think that's where a lot of the discontentment comes from. And yes, we do give them a fight because we think that, frankly, a lot of their policies need to be fought.
Which party do you think? Oh, sorry, I didn't realise you hadn't finished. Carry on.
No, yeah, I'm almost done. I'll
Okay.
shut up in a minute, I promise. But absolutely, there is a lot of discontentment, because to people who aren't engaged in politics, it looks childish. I can see why people would feel like that. We have very good reasons for the way we act, because we want to secure actual change. When you look at what they did to the railway, they agreed to do an order on it. Then they broke the law, and then they decided they were going to have trains that broke the laws of physics in order to comply with the order. Which, I mean, that's one step up from breaking Scottish law, I suppose.
It's definitely impressive.
But it's just absolutely. I think to people who aren't engaged in politics, all the established parties look ridiculous at the moment, and that's why the SSD have grown. And if the Clibs have a good term in government, I think we'll be able to stabilise and we'll be able to grow more next time. If we don't, then frankly, we as a Scottish Parliament, all the parties have unleashed something we cannot control, and it will grow and it will grow until it consumes us.
Well, talking about
sorry, can I just
absolutely go.
From I was in Aberdeen before the election, Guardian, and a lot of what you said about voters being discontented with the status quo and the two parties bickering all the time, that's definitely something I felt a lot on the ground. There was, people calling it a toxic political culture and things like that, and that's what the Social Democrats have tapped into here. Which party do you think has the most to fear?
Well, in the immediate time, obviously the Scottish Greens, because once they're kicked out of government, they'll start to collapse very, very quickly, because they won't have a platform. They're relying, frankly, on stirring up hatred and division to keep them going at this point. They're not stupid. They understand. There's a strategy to why they didn't get rid of Sunak immediately, and that's because they know they can play off sectarian voting for a while. They know that they can stir up people and get them effectively have the Northern Ireland effect of being afraid of the evil unionists. That's kind of been their strategy, and it's an awful strategy. But in the immediate time, the Greens. But in the long term, especially for my party and the parties we were hoping to do a deal with, if we can't detoxify that environment, if we can't capitalise and actually be more constructive, then I think what we'll find is that we'll be next in the firing line. So I ran in Northern Ireland saying let's change Northern Ireland for good. We might need to start saying that in Scotland as well.
Well, talking about smaller
Can
parties.
I just ask one more question?
No, you can't, because
it's relevant on this.
I know. Yeah, if it's relevant to this point, then absolutely, of course you can.
To this point, before we move past it, do you think it's a particular worry or an issue for the Liberal Democrats that they actually polled below the Social Democrats despite being an established brand? I know they were wiped out the last election. Do you think they should be concerned by the fact that this new party has just leapfrogged above them?
Oh, everyone should be concerned by it. This isn't just. There are small-minded people who think it's only the Greens that need to be scared about it. No, all of the parties, including mine, need to be very concerned about this, because the fact that they've gained so rapidly from nothing shows there is a very big amount of discontentment. And if we don't do something about it quickly, then something will be done to us about it.
But do you think it's a particular issue for the Scottish Liberal Democrats, the fact that this was meant to be their time and they've been upstaged?
Whoa.
Well, I mean, the Scottish Liberal Democrats have done okay. I think right now it's the Greens who need to
persuade, really, because it's the Greens who are going to suffer. Like, you could argue that part of the reason that the click growth wasn't quite as explosive as it could be, although it was a good result for us. One of the reasons it wasn't quite as explosive as it could have been could well be the SDP, and I could well believe that. I'd want to see more in-depth polling on that, and I'll be very interested in that.
Well, I'm sure Will will have it for you. The numbers will.
I think what we'll see though is that for the moment it's the Greens need to be worried, but unless something's done fairly quickly, then everyone needs to be worried.
Okay, talking about smaller parties, in some other news, the Irish Parliamentary Party has announced that Alexa has been made their deputy leader. So congratulations to Alexa, and I hope the janitoring duties continue as deputy leader. Okay, next in the studio we are joined by another member of the Alliance Party and Classical Liberals, Count Brandenburg. Damien, how are you?
Hi.
How are you doing?
What's on your mind?
Well, welcome to the therapy session.
So, I guess we should turn our attention to Northern Ireland then, right?
Yeah.
Here are the results again for everyone who's watching at home. Okay, so Northern Ireland. We just heard that the Irish Parliamentary Party have appointed their new deputy leader. Sinn Féin lost a seat. You guys gained a seat, and the Labour Party gained a seat. How much do you think that the landscape of Northern Ireland has changed between these two elections, the last election and this recent election?
Hello?
I think we've lost him.
Hello. Hello.
Randy?
I think we've lost him.
I think we've lost him. That was a bit of dead air there, as we all tried to work out what was going on.
God, what is it with modern television and having really, really rubbish lines?
Shall I run through some of the numbers?
Yeah, let's do that actually. Do you want me to pull up the Guardian stuff?
Yeah, you bring up the tables that I spent hours doing. I spent far too much time on those tables.
Here they are.
I spent about 4 hours doing those tables, so you should like them and appreciate them. So what we saw in Northern Ireland was a massive drop for the Ulster Unionist Party, something that was really unexpected before the election. They were polling at 47% before the election. It was just down 4 points from their previous election, about 50%. So over the course of the campaign, they had a bit of a collapse to 12.24%. And I believe, unless I'm mistaken, that was the biggest drop. No, sorry, it wasn't quite the biggest. The biggest drop stuff in these elections was Labour, only ever so slightly more of a drop. That doesn't include the Scottish Green Party, who didn't. The Northern Irish Green Party, who didn't stand this time, so they nominally dropped 14%. So the Ulster Unionist Party had a bit of a collapse. They stayed steady on their seats though, but they dropped a lot of first preference. It was a good result for the other parties, the Labour Party and the Alliance Party, who went up about 10 points between them, with Labour narrowly staying ahead of Alliance in terms of number of votes, increasing their lead ever so slightly from the last election. It's both a good night and a bad night for Sinn Féin, depending on how you look at it, because they merge with the Green Party. So they're a new entry this time, where they did very badly at the last season, not new entry, but as it is now, they are fairly new. So compared to the last election, they're up one seat and they're up 10.3% of the vote. But actually, in comparison to how they were pre-election after their merger with the Green Party, they were down by about 2 points and down a seat. Good night for the Irish Parliamentary Party getting their first ever representation, up a seat. The swing in first preference votes was 8.75% from the UUP to the Labour Party. And in terms of how the communities did, it was a 15.92% drop for the Unionists overall. That was mostly the UUP anyway. The others were up 10.38%. They're now only 4 behind the Unionists on 36.71% with 4 seats, and the Nationalists on 2, up 5.55% of the last election, almost entirely due to the performance of the IPP.
There we go. So, a drop for the Unionists, a massive rise for the other, and a slight rise for the Nationalists. Who should we talk to? I think we're still... Yeah, landline is bad on Count Brandenburg's side.
I've just got through to Brandenburg, and basically his line's dead, so he's going to try and have a statement put together and sent over to us.
That sounds perfect. So in the meantime, I guess we should talk to you two losers. Twisted.
Wow.
You're our rebounds.
This is why Ofcom is giving you trouble, mate.
Look, you come on here because you want to be bullied.
That's it, basically, yeah.
I do enjoy it, Daddy. I do enjoy it.
Oh.
What happened in Northern Ireland is really endemic of the whole situation that happened in Scotland and Wales, although to different degrees in both those places. Those parties associated with the government in Westminster took a massive hit. We've got the UUP, who always were the dominant party in Stormont, going back quite a few elections now. It was a dominant party system in Northern Ireland. You were going to have the UUP just dominant. And while, the UUP still have won, they have lost the Unionists having a majority. Now, other than the Nationalists, if they got together, they'd have a majority. I'm not saying that's necessarily what's going to happen, but, the UUP does not hold the balance of power as much as it used to. No longer do parties have sort of coalesce around them and see what they can get from them. It's a matter of the old guard's on the way out. We saw it in Scotland, the old guard's on the way out. In Wales, we've got the First Minister losing his own seat. And while it's a bit different there because, the Welsh Liberal Alliance did win 3 seats, they did gain votes. The First Minister lost his seat. There's a real anti-establishment wave that went through all of the elections, I think we saw. I think that goes into why the Social Democrats did so much better than expected in Scotland. That's why the Irish Parliamentary Party won a seat. In the first round, even, they won the first seat. This wave of anti-establishment further, it'll be interesting to see if it does go on to the general election. Because, think about how bad we've seen the Greens and their associated parties, Sinn Féin, do in this election, basically losing a seat in Northern Ireland, if you think about it, because of inheritance of the Greens. The Westminster national situation, the parties like the Greens, is so much horrendously worse than the devolved situation. Where if this is how the Greens are doing in Scotland, losing their control over Holyrood, maybe for good, then what on earth is going to happen to them at Westminster? They're even going to get a seat anymore. Is the People's Movement just going to completely eclipse them? Is this going to be the end of the Greens?
Oh, they're going to be absolutely annihilated.
Oh, yeah.
This is the end of the Green Party.
Can I take something, before I let you into it, can I take C. Doctorus up on something he said? Did you say that you thought that the Welsh and the Scottish results, as well as the Northern Irish results, delivered a bad result for the government in Westminster?
Well, I was about to say that, in fact, the Scottish Conservatives made gains.
Yes. And the Welsh Conservatives had the biggest gains of any party.
And also, to correct you, actually,
they went up by 18.64%.
18.64%. And it was 4 seats that the Welsh Liberal Alliance got, not 3 seats. Yeah.
I think, obviously, I make the prediction 3 seats, by the way, when I said Welsh Liberal Alliance getting 3 seats. But
the only part of the only one of these elections in which the parties associated with the Westminster government made losses in Northern Ireland. The other 2, they made gains. Good gains.
Well,
I
actually,
don't deny they made gains. I'm saying that they're not in a situation they should be in. Where they should be right now, the Conservatives especially, is in a hugely influential position. Whereas in Wales, they failed to make the indent that means they'll have really any influence in the Senate. I mean, really, I said this when I was talking to Compin during the tech stream, really, because of the layout of the Senate, it's not actually impossible to imagine that the Welsh Liberal Alliance could govern alone in a minority.
That's true.
Because...
I think a salient point there is now that the Welsh Conservatives have as much influence as Welsh Labour does, because Welsh Labour dropped half their seats. They dropped down to 1.
I don't deny that the fact that the governing parties have gone up. I'm saying that the governing parties have failed to put themselves in a position where they're going to get the influence they want.
Right.
If they get in government in Holyrood, they're going to play second fiddle at best to a classical Liberal government in Scotland. If they get in government in the Senate, I'll eat my hat. And, if they've lost in Northern Ireland, they've lost the position which was indomitable.
That was a very fancy word. Talking about Westminster, let's take a look at the national opinion polling that came out today, shall we?
Oh yes, I was very pleased with that.
You can partially thank me for that.
Oh, big man.
Lovely set of polling. I was very happy with it.
Pressure on.
Oh, to
Very
put the
happy.
pressure on getting the polls out. Well, if we take a look at the polls, the change between
Yes.
the 9th and the 29th of May is what I'll be looking at. The Conservative parties is down 0.9%, Labour Party up 0.29%, Libertarians 1.12%, Liberal Democrats 2.07%, Classical Liberals 1.25%, the Green Left are down 0.73%, the Loyalist League are about the same, Plaid are down 0.41%, and Other down 2.52%.
There will be an analysis from The Guardian coming out in the next days. I'm going to be going through every seat, projecting how they would go under these polls on the basis of a universal swing since the last election. So, a lot of work
Well, that'll
ahead
be an
of me,
interesting
but I'll
read.
hopefully get that out. So, look forward to that.
Guardian been killing it.
Huh?
You've been killing it in The Guardian.
Thank you. Very kind.
What can we take from here? Classical Liberals up
Well.
1.25, Liberal Democrats up 2.07. The Other down 2.52. Other being what? Social Democrat?
That would be well, if we want to look at major Westminster forces, ignoring sort of independence and all that stuff, then we're looking at New Britain, we're looking at the SDP, and we're looking at the People's Movement.
Obviously,
Yeah.
it would have been the ISD back then, because obviously this is before.
Potato. You've been planning this rename for ages.
I wasn't, but.
Well, yes, that's because you're a Liberal Democrat.
Well, if you had, it probably would have leaked.
You say that like I wasn't in the party before it happened. Things
She
have happened
joined,
since I've been in the
and then
party.
Okay, so thanks, guys. What else is there to take? Again, the Liberal Alliance up, what, 3.3... 8, 9, 10... 2?
It's not a bad
Percent?
result for the
I
Liberal
can
Alliance.
If you look at the governing parties, if you combine them both, the government's actually up. Where the Conservative figure obviously is quite stark initially for the government, but if you look at it, actually the government overall has gone up because the Libertarian gains offset Conservative losses.
Yep.
We're joined in the studio by...
This studio is designed to only house 5 people.
We got some extra seats. Welcome
Okay,
back.
well, I'll be off then.
Who wants to sit on my lap?
I'll let someone have my seats.
Well,
It's all right. Someone can sit on my lap.
welcome back to
If any
the...
Labour people would like to come on and explain your creaming on Sunday, by the way.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
let's get lots
I
of...
I
we haven't
enjoyed-
talked much about Labour.
If
That's a
anyone
story.
wants to come on,
I
you're
enjoyed the-
absolutely welcome.
I especially
If
enjoyed
any
their
Labour people
creaming.
want to come on and explain it.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
I especially enjoyed their creaming in Wales, going down, losing half their seats, losing half their seats in Holyrood, losing half their seats in the Senate. Like it was satisfactory.
You know, I think it's a...
It was, wasn't
Can I run through the Welsh? I don't think I've run.
Well, we will in 1 second. Just want to
Absolutely.
actually get it
Thank
out
you.
there. Thank you very much for Docker, who was in the studio with us, who's now left us.
God bless you, Doc.
If you're watching Sky News, just joining us, it's 20 to 9. We'll be wrapping up at about probably 9 o'clock, if we can drag it out another 20 minutes. Myself, Weebrew, joined by Willshakespeare, and in the studio with us is Twisted Nuke, the leader of the Classical Liberals, and Zukov236, the leader of the Welsh Conservatives. Okay, let's run through the numbers in Wales, first of all.
Wales. So, looking through the numbers here, I had a look at changing. I only looked to every seat, and calculated a swing for every seat. And the thing that struck me was that the incumbents were punished. across the country, the incumbent party, the Welsh Liberal Alliance, were one of the two went up. They got the best ever constituency vote secured in a Welsh election with 41.17%. They got the best ever regional vote, 43.52%, and narrowly missed out on the best constituency vote behind Carwyn Jones's 2011. It was a bad night for their government partners, though, in Welsh Labour, who dropped 6.7% and 4.96% in the constituency regional vote and lost half their seats. So not so good for them. The big thing in the Welsh Liberal Alliance campaign was talking about their performance in government. So that's clearly paid off for them nationally. But let's have a look at some of the individual seats. In North Wales, this was a Welsh Liberal Alliance seat, actually. And what we see here is something of a trend, which is that there was a swing away from the incumbent. So there was a 7.53% swing away from the Welsh Liberal Alliance to Plaid Cymru, who didn't get many gains during the night, but they did gain ever so slightly here. Well, they gained quite a lot here, actually. They went up by 1%, and got a good 7% swing. In Mid and West Wales, this was Wagbo's seat, the first minister. He very much suffered more than anyone else from the incumbents being punished trend. There was a 29.35% swing from the Welsh Liberal Alliance to the Conservatives. That's a massive swing. Not the biggest in Wales, but it was a huge swing. He dropped to 30.6% to tie with Plaid Cymru, down 19.9%. Well, the Tories rose by 38.8%. They didn't stand at the last election, so they had a huge increase. Again, the trend continues when we move on to the Welsh seat. The trend of the incumbents being punished. The Labour seats. In both of their seats, Labour had swings away from them. They lost South Central Wales to the Welsh Liberal Alliance. They kept South West Wales with a slight swing against 8% to the Liberal Alliance. South Central Wales, Labour lost this seat, dropping to last place. They lost their deposit. They dropped 36.18% to 3.32%. Whilst the Welsh Liberal Alliance won 64.75%. That's a 30.87% swing away from from Labour, which is a really bad result. And finally, in South East Wales, there was a swing of 16.75% from the incumbent Plaid Cymru to the Welsh Liberal Alliance.
And that was the one where Plaid went down to fourth, right?
Here they were. They were. Yes, they came fourth here.
Yeah,
yes,
they
were
down
29.
Proud of that.
They were down 16, so it's a 16.75% swing applied to the Welsh Liberal Alliance. So what we're seeing across every constituency is the incumbent having a swing against them to the second place, to another party. They all lost ground in their own seats, and that was true of Wagbo. If in the regional votes, there was a swing overall of 5.48% from Plaid to the Welsh Liberal. And in the national constituency vote, there was a 14.91% swing from Plaid Cymru to the Welsh Liberal Alliance and a 16.35% swing from the Welsh Liberal Alliance to the Conservative. So there you go. There's the trends in Wales. Plaid down, all the parties down in seats they held. Good night for the Welsh Liberal Alliance. Record-breaking. They hold almost
the numbers.
A terrible result for the Labour Party, and a great result for the Tories.
All the numbers. We have a statement from the leader of Welsh Labour before we get to Zukov. A Rich T Biscuit says, Welsh Labour is disappointed about the election result. However, we're looking forward to showcasing our energy in the Synod and building a strong platform for the next election. Sorry, Zukov, you were saying?
Still looking
for
no
problem.
People who want to come on and explain their creed.
Yeah, that would be going to be an interesting conversation. Look,
I mean, I could give you a hot take on ours if you want.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah. I'm not interrupting, am I, Zook?
Oh, no, go ahead. I can speak
cool,
later.
Man. Thanks. So, with the WLA, I think the analysis we want to take here is that the Welsh Liberal Alliance have done well as a party, not as individuals. Because if you look at the campaign, it was a very presidential campaign. We made the decision to very much make it Wagbo's WLA. And we did that because we felt that Wagbo was a popular person. He had name recognition. People know who he is. But the fact he didn't do well in his own constituency suggests that it may well be that much of our support comes from credibility as a party, but not as individuals, which in some ways is quite good because it means it's politics over personality. But on the other hand, that may explain why we managed to do well on the regional list, not so well in constituencies.
I think, look, going back to what C. Docra said earlier, I love the man, but he's just dead wrong. Look, he is. It's a fact. Look, if you look at Wales in constituency vote, we never stood in Wales before. Now you can argue, oh, that was your whatever. The fact is we didn't stand in Wales before. We're now second place in terms of national constituency vote. Second place in our first election. All right, that is a tremendous dent. That is a tremendous dent. All right, we beat Plaid Cymru, we beat Welsh Labour, both in the popular constituency vote.
By the way, the polls definitely did not show that.
Yeah, but what you do have to understand is the one thing I think when you talk about it, there's a bit of a link here between the Independent Social Democrats and what we managed to do. Now, the Independent Social Democrats ran a better campaign, right? I think they ran the best campaign out of any party, but they didn't do much in the term, right? We started from the ground up and we just built our infrastructure, built our party, going and debating legislation every single time we could during the term. We went up to 12%, right? That was a good start. We were hoping for those kinds of results. We got 18%. So I think the campaign helped us, and I think our term time helped us, and that's something that the Independent Social Democrats should consider. We've got to start doing stuff in the term.
One other interesting trend that I'd just like to point out, because I forgot to mention it before, is that the rural Wales went towards the Conservatives. The Conservatives made their biggest gains in rural areas, whereas the urban areas went towards the Liberal Alliance.
Well, it's not so really surprising, is it?
I mean, there's a bit of an issue there because we had to deal with the LPUK where we stood in 60% of seats, they stood in 40% of seats. So I don't think that's. I mean, I get that comparison. I don't think it's entirely fair because this once I think urban seat we did stand in, which was Southeast Wales, which is where I stood in. We got to second place, and we almost beat the Welsh Liberal Alliance by about 10,000 votes. So the Welsh Liberal Alliance did do really good, but I don't think it's entirely accurate to say we had like some immense deficit in urban Wales. We just didn't stand in the seats.
Implying, but there was more of a trend where was that rural areas, including Wagbo's own seat, Mid and West Wales, which is a rural area, went towards the Tories, whereas you still had good result in urban areas, but it was less pronounced. So it's something we expect. The Conservatives usually do better trend, considering it's their first election. It maybe tells us something about what the shape of things in Welsh politics will be now that the Conservatives are part of that again.
We have this statement from Count Brandenburg coming in hot and fast. But first, let's welcome to the studio the candidate who de-seated, maybe not.
Yeah, he did de-seat. He did unseat.
Yeah, we had him in the studio for a second,
unseat Wagbo.
but his microphone fell out, and we may have to reattach it.
Sad.
So we'll wait for PJR, the candidate that de-seated Wagbo in mid.
At least he didn't have any trouble with the door.
No, Twisted. This is not the MBBC.
We don't go on for 3 hours live stream, spending 1 hour of that on doors.
How dare you?
Yes, I would say.
I'll have you know we spent 2 hours on doors. How dare you?
Oh, I apologize for that.
The other on getting me drunk because every graphic.
That drunken stream was magical.
It was magical. But let's welcome to the studio the new AM for Mid and West Wales, Conservative Press Officer PJR. PJR, are you with us?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, there's a little bit of echo through the mic. Our voice.
It's
Someone to push the top.
Let me find my...
In the meantime, we have a statement from Count Brandenburg of the Alliance Party. Okay, I'm thinking, what's the best way to do this?
Just put it up on the screen, mate.
Just
Yeah, but it's a DM, so I'm trying to like. Okay, let me screen snippet.
Read it aloud in dramatic prose.
be a Shakespearean ethicist.
Weebrute is Shakespearean. You know. He
Yeah,
has the wit. He has the wit.
Weebrutes are Shakespeare.
Excuse me.
Do you know what the rest of the DM? I'm
I'm
just
sat
reading up
right
with the
here.
rest of the DM. It's like there's no context to it, so I'll just put up Discord and hope nothing comes up. And then like.
This is where we see Weebrute's nudes, isn't it?
How do I even do this? Oh no, it's not centering itself
Oh
now.
Lord, I see something else.
Oh my God,
Oh
that's-
Lord, hello.
Uh-oh.
Leaks.
Uh-oh.
What's that group chat I see there?
That's
Screenshot acquired.
Sco TLC.
that is the Scott TLC chat. That was
Interesting.
negotiations.
I thought it was called the Shite Bag Coalition.
It is exactly. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me. How can I do this? Okay.
Just say
read
it.
it
Just
aloud,
read it.
you
Just read it.
nonce.
I know what I can do, right?
Okay,
Here's what I'm
send
gonna
it to
do.
me and I'll
I'm
read
gonna
it
add
for
the dis.
goodness sake.
I'm gonna.
I'll
Here's what I'm
do
gonna do. All right. Here we go. Image, and then we go here, and then we browse for an image, and then we go to
Fucking
desktop.
cutting edge technology.
This is cutting edge technology. Oh.
Guy news
Drop
the
in
guy-
show open.
Revolution.
It's like watching my
Press.
grandmother use her computer.
Okay, let's.
Should we bring PGR back in? He's
Please do
Yeah,
try.
yeah, yeah.
Save
We
me
have-
the embarrassment.
We only have 4 people here, so we can fit one more.
Twisted, we're professionals here. I'll have you know.
Oh, and he's
sure.
gone. Okay.
You're making me look professional. That's quite something, mate.
There we go. PGR.
Hey, I
Hello.
got 2 Tories.
Oh, there we go. Hello.
How are you, PGR?
Hello.
Is that no echo?
Oh,
anymore?
your mic is broken.
Oh God, good lord.
Oh, okay.
Oh no, it's good. Oh, I mean, I don't think it's loud.
Oh, it's just working. Okay,
It's just
good.
very scratchy. Oh good lord.
Well,
Ah.
look, it's better than the echo. We'll deal with it.
Yes. I just got
Rock and a hard place, man.
obviously given the worst mic that Sky News has.
You're welcome.
Thanks, guys.
We reserve it just for the Tory guests.
Twisted loves the sound.
You're not the MBBC now, Twisted. You put up. Oh,
He left.
We have it. Okay.
Okay.
Hide the image.
Oh, PGR's gone.
Here we go.
That's-
Statement from Crown Back. I got it. See, top technology. It's on the screen.
About bloody time.
Here's the statement from Count Brandenburg. Sorry about the landline. Looks like the hamsters have been
Really hot
nibbling at the line. So, for anyone who missed it, I'll be standing as First Minister candidate for the Alliance after much speculation. It's not an
I
easy
saw that on
decision.
Twitter earlier.
Do you know what? We had this sent direct, and you can see it only took me. Look, it says 8:48. It's now 8:53. So, anyway, it was not an easy situation.
I saw that on Twitter earlier. Just...
Dylan or Zygarde failing to win their seat makes things much more complicated, but it is what it is. So, Twisted, why are you not standing as First Minister?
Hey, PGR's back.
Well, frankly, because
Hi, yes.
I haven't fully detoxified myself.
T-
You know, I'm very aware of the fact that a lot of people seriously question my decision
Why?
with the by-election. I mean, I wrote a letter recently to my constituents, and I tried to explain my reasoning, and I hope that. I mean, I do quite genuinely apologise to any of them who I upset, and if I have upset anyone with that decision, I do genuinely apologise.
So-
But I was always angling. First, to avoid setting the precedent that we could exclude unionist voters from elections, or any voters, because that's a very dangerous precedent to set in Northern Ireland. And secondarily, I was hoping to cause a snap election in Stormont. That would have hopefully meant we could have had some sensible nationalists as opposed to sectarians we were offered in that election.
Yes, and for some context, you're talking about there was a by-election in Northern Ireland, and it was needed that there was a nationalist MLA, right?
Yes. Okay. So what happened was originally there was a party called Fianna Fáil, which was led by the leader of the
He did
People's
well.
Action Party. Fianna Fáil managed to secure themselves some seats and were the sole nationalists. They resigned their seats and left the Stormont Assembly, which meant there was no longer a nationalist MLA. So for those who aren't aware, part of the Good Friday Agreement requires that there's a nationalist and a unionist in the executive. So one can't form without. We've also subsequently added a sort of non-partisan person who has to be in the executive as well, a third party, who's someone who identifies with neither side. That's been subsequently added. But so the point was, the assembly couldn't function without a nationalist. And so it went to by-election, and 3 nationalist candidates stood. One of them was the gentleman who's just been elected for the IPP, Trev. Now, Trev tried to resign during the race and endorse the Green candidate, which, frankly, it was picking between a rock and hard place because both Green and Sinn Féin had put horrendous candidates up. And so what happened was he ended up, due to the rules of the Electoral Commission, he couldn't remove himself from the ballot. So he went to the ballot and was elected anyway. And so he then said, look, I didn't want this, I resign. And it called another by-election. Now, there were no new nationalist candidates coming. And frankly, the only one who I would trust anywhere near the executive was Trev out of that lineup. So I came to the decision that the best option was to stand in myself in the hope I could win. And then it would force a general election in Stormont. And what that would mean is then we would have new nationalists, we'd have an opportunity to elect some moderates instead of the sectarians we were offered.
Okay, that makes sense. Going back to Brandenburg's statement, I will continue my campaign focusing on improvement in Northern Ireland. We will think there is a general consensus for cross-community cooperation this election, especially as well as breaking down barriers such as peace walls between communities. On policy, I can at least admire the UUP highlighting the divide in schools, but I've taken a radical option to say that they will end funding from the Northern Ireland Executive come next budget. We are looking at a process to desegregation instead and progress towards a fully integrated school system. We can at least be sure we can lay out a solution that brings forward a liberal society within Northern Ireland. The same can be said about healthcare policy, which will integrate private healthcare with HSCNI, increasing access. What we strive for is policy that, quite frankly, is not concerned about how any single person thinks about their constitutional future for Northern Ireland. We stand above divisiveness, and it isn't our job to try and influence their decision. Our focus is amelioration of different communities and making a difference for everyone. So yes, we'll get back to the statement in a second. Give my breath a rest. PGR, are you back? No.
No.
Right.
No, he's not. I'll try and
back
attack
in
him.
a couple of times, but we kept losing. So
I think we're going to get a statement
I
from
do wonder if we could
PGR
get
as
someone
well.
from the UUP in.
That would be
interesting.
nice.
I'd like someone from the Labour
Because
Party.
they are. I mean, the funny thing is about Northern Ireland, God knows where it's going to land. They're realistic. There are probably going to be 3 candidates for the First Minister: Count Brandenburg, Trevism, and FPS Lover. And frankly, I'd give them all equal chances of getting. It's chaos in
there. I would like someone from the UP or the Labour. I still want them to explain their creaming, but alas, I don't think we're going to get that opportunity. And again, the UUP, they did drop considerably. They kept their seats and they still won, but they clearly have, their popularity has dropped considerably.
it's a bad
As the only conservative, I guess I'm not technically part of the UUP, but can I just sort of say
Yes,
something?
yeah. Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not gonna spin this and say this was like an excellent result. What we have to understand is, firstly, I think that because a lot of new parties got very active, which was a very good thing. Domination by a single party is never a good thing, and I mean, obviously it was good for the UUP, but it's never in the long term good for anyone. So I think it's very good that new parties like the IPP, Libertarian Party of Northern Ireland, they got active. They actually started working because formerly what you would see is opposition parties would just not do anything, and that would allow the UUP to just dominate because no one else was on this stage. I think the fact that we held even is a generally good result. I'm disappointed, of course, that we did worse than polling indicated, but that's what it is.
I mean, I think what basically happened was you've effectively stalled, because if you look at all the growth, it's been in other parties. So I think there is just a general decrease in willingness to first pref explicit unionist or nationalist parties. You know, frankly, I would say this because I'm a member of Alliance, but I think Alliance is on the right side of history here.
Can I just? We're talking about new parties. Well, Zukov was saying how new parties have done really well. I would like to just sort of insert some figures here. Just that's the thing. Of parties that didn't hold a seat in any of these assemblies before the election, Northern Ireland parties didn't hold any seats before the election. Went up by a total of 11.5%. So that's the Irish Parliamentary Party, the Democrats. In Wales, it was 20.78% increase for parties without seats. So that's the Conservatives and the Libertarians. And in Scotland, it was a 12.52% increase without any seats. That was mostly the Social Democrats, but also the Libertarians.
Okay,
So there you go.
I think we should let's do a broad conclusion of tonight and of 2 nights ago's proceedings. If I can, what's the word? Humour you, I guess. So, if we go back to this and then click away from this. Okay, so if you missed 2 nights ago, you're living under a rock. Here's what happened. In Wales, the Welsh Liberal Alliance is the largest party with 4 seats, and it has been made clear by Wagbo, the First Minister, that he is looking for a moderate unionist coalition. So that rules out Plaid Cymru. In Scotland, it does. In Scotland,
I was really hoping Plaid Cymru could be unionist, but you know,
there's well-known
we got it.
Dunk site in their unionism stance.
Yes, they're massive. They're radical unionists. I take credit for coining that term.
Not that again.
My best political spin.
I believe one of your friends would call that shitey spin.
It was the best political spin of Holyrood's era. Anyway, in Scotland, the Scottish Greens retained their position as largest party. Classical Liberals shortly behind on 5, and as we said on the opening, a multitude of coalitions. We've been talking about Northern Ireland with the Ulster Unionists even on 5, Alliance Party up 1 on 2, Labour up 1 on 2, and Sinn Féin and the IPP on 1. And here is the dramatic unfolding story that has happened today. We're talking about the potential coalitions in Scotland. We have the centre to centre right bloc that could possibly put Dunks into...
That's a new graphic.
No, it's not. I just ran by it. I was quick because I wanted to surprise you with the whole Geordie thing. But yes, this is the... You see the amazing editing? You see how there's like the little gap because that's like the CNS, and then like up at the top is like the coalition, possibly. You never know.
When did you couple that together before the stream?
Yes, like 5 minutes before the stream using paint.net. Anyway, this is what we believe would be the way to put Dunks in as First Minister, because the Social Democrats have ruled out working with the Greens, they've ruled out working with the LPUK. So we would assume that the Soc Dems and the Lib Dems would go into a CNS with the Classical Liberals and the Tories. However, we've seen today that this was a possible government to some extent, which has been quickly shot down. A TLC government essentially supported by the Scottish Libertarians. We had a statement from Geordie, which I won't go over again, but it basically said that the LPUK needs to rebrand to something more moderate. We want to give the TLC another shot because that's what the voters voted for. We're open-minded, blah, blah, blah. However, new graphic. This was, I actually snuck something in during the stream. Freed, the leader of the LPUK, on Twitter saying that the LPUK will not be entering that coalition and that the leadership are unaware that this talk had happened. Who knows? Will Geordie be removed as leader? Who knows?
Yes.
Oh yeah, he's done.
He's gone.
I like Geordie. You know, we used to be in the same party until frankly he took a lurch to the far right. But you know, I do like him as a person. But you know, this is term.
So Geordie was leader of the Greens, and then so from socialist
been on quite
to
an adventure,
yes.
We've seen in the last few days the mood in the LPUK, which is that they have lurched very far to the right. You know, on a lot of things. The recent bills that have come before the House legalising racist football and hate speech. We've seen the sort of party the LPUK are in the last few days, and what Geordie has done in Scotland, take the party too far, too fast away from that.
Yeah,
The problem is they're very scared of
too
becoming a
much
wing
too
of the
quickly.
Tories. You know, they don't want to end up like UKIP,
Yes.
where they just become a wing of the Tories. That's what they're
Too
afraid
much too quickly, and I think he's done for now. Now that shot this down very publicly, gone against his Scottish leader, I think Geordie.
And we talked about it during the broadcast, whether I asked Doc whether Geordie had the, I guess, what's the word, constitutionality to, go ahead with this kind
Well,
of...
it depends on how they've structured their party. There's two fundamental ways you can structure your party. There's a federal system, like you have in Labour, where effectively the devolved parties are separate. And then there's what we have in the Clibs, which is a unitary system, where the Dunks does not have any powers in of himself. He is exercising the powers of the national leader because it's one integral party. It's just I delegate to him effectively.
Which explains why it's the classical Liberal delegation to the Scottish Parliament, not a separate party.
Yeah.
Yes, there is no such thing as the Scottish classical Liberals. No such party exists. And the reason for that is because we are a unitary party. Even in Wales and Northern Ireland, we're still structured to have a unitary relationship with the WLA and Alliance.
Zukov, you were saying?
Oh no, he Tristan already addressed it. I was going to ask about Wales and Northern Ireland.
Perfect. So then we had a statement that was given... Oh, sorry, on you go.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I just wanted to say one thing about Geordie. I think it's sad because I think Fried was initially tolerating his actions to moderate the LPUK. In terms of opposing the hate speech legalization bill. I think if he'd gone slower, he could have very well put the Scottish LPUK back on the track to relevance. He didn't do that. He made a huge strategic error, and now the Scottish LPUK are going to be effectively in home rule by Fried.
Shades of Paul Rand.
He's moved too far too fast.
Yes, shades of Paul Rand, who was removed from the LPUK after much controversy. We'll even go back into that, but possibly another leader.
If he wanted to do this deal, he should have done a grand coalition deal. Frankly,
So a grand coalition deal would have been.
I think that would have been survivable. The problem here is the Greens, not Labour.
Right. So grand coalition would have been Tories, Labour.
Lately, Labour has just been a Green puppet, but I think the real problem here is the Greens, not Labour. I think Fried might have swallowed it if it was Labour and the Tories, maybe with Tories taking up the first ministership, but putting the Butte House figures back in, it wasn't going to fly.
And when you say grand coalition in Holyrood, what parties do you mean? Labour, Tories, LPUK?
I mean, as in the Westminster grand coalition, so Labour and Tories.
I think actually what you
Maybe
noticed
some
right
kind
after
of bizarre minority.
Yeah, I think you noticed what happened right after was I was discussing with AI and some other Green members, and actually what I noticed was that there was a very, very huge willingness to sort of try and maintain some sort of influence, and they were actually I thought this was sarcastic at the beginning, but they were saying, we're willing to give supply and confidence to parties that are smaller than us, because a grand coalition could technically have been feasible if the Greens had given supply and confidence to it. I don't think it's I think it's entirely possible that could have happened.
Moving to Wales, we have a statement from someone who tried to get into the studio earlier, PJR, the new AM for Mid and West Wales. PGR says, sorry for the bad connection and stuff. I think it was a very positive result, and the Welsh results show a positive step towards more diversity in the Senate. This will be positive and allow a wider range of views to be represented. I'm delighted to the people of Mid and West Wales. They've decided to go for a fresh voice in the Senate. I'm sure WAGBO will still be in AM and will continue to deliver positive unionism to the Assembly. Nonetheless, and to reject divisive Welsh nationalism. On a wider scale, it is great to see that people have generally elected people in moderate manifestos and parties with a good track record in government, and I believe they have sent a message to the Labour Party that the coalition of chaos of the last term was unacceptable. We're currently working on some exciting prospects to ensure that both the people of Mid and West are well represented, and we're working to build a Wales for all. So that was PGR there of the Welsh Conservatives. A nice little statement, Zukov.
Yeah, I like it. Perfect.
Toying the party line. No, I'm kidding. Where are we? Here and then here. Jumping back, we had the statement from Wagbo at the start, which was just basically the same. So you could expect some sort of Liberal Alliance Conservative talk going on. Stable government, creating
Who
opportunities.
leaked that to you?
Docra,
I don't remember saying
Docra leaked it. I'm saying it's pretty possible that the Welsh Liberal Alliance and the Welsh Conservatives will be talking, probably Labour as well. You know, let's be honest. Yes, so stable government, creating opportunities for the poorest, and fighting in Wales's corner. And I'm hesitant to click forward. Okay, so it's a statement from Brandenburg, and then that's the image. Okay, you know what? I think that's us. Well, do you have any closing thoughts?
No, I think we've pretty much covered everything tonight. Well, one theme that I keep coming back to is that incumbents across the three countries took a bit of a beating. New parties did extraordinarily well. Personally, I think that the next First Minister Dunks. I think that the UUP will hold on to First Minister in Northern Ireland, and I think that, in fact, it could well be an alliance. First Minister from Northern Ireland. It could be either. I don't think it's not going to.
It's going to come down to who the SDLP back.
Yeah, it is absolutely.
You mean, isn't it Labour Party of Northern Ireland?
I think
the SDLP.
I'm
not entertaining that ridiculous name change. They're the SDLP.
I think the UUP are gonna hold. And I think obviously Wagbo's been the First Minister again.
Talking about Scotland just one last time, no bias, I promise. You said that Dunks will most likely be First Minister. I think we can. I think it's very, very likely. I think that after Freed shut down this TLC LPUK deal, there's really no other way to keep a kind of TLC government in Butte House, except with the Social Democrats. Yeah, and they've ruled it out.
With the Greens.
I mean, you never know. You could, like, last minute, there could be some sort of, like, what would it be? Labour, Liberal Democrats, Social Democrats,
The only way
Greens.
it could happen is with the Greens in a confidence and supply deal, not a coalition.
Right.
That might satisfy the SSD.
And do you think that the SSD would want to do that early? Like, this is the first term, it's so unstable, it'd be like a 4-seat cabinet, 4-seat government, like, that'd be mental.
Yeah, I think. Well, I imagine it would actually end up being a 3-seat government, because I imagine it would be the SSD in confidence. But I mean,
Possibly.
you're right. Even if the TLC can cling on to power somehow, it would be horrendously unstable. Well, let's face facts. Dunks is going into Butte House. If he can do it now with the Conservatives, or he can do it in 2 months when the TLC collapses.
Yes. And we had, of course, the TLC agreement was leaked. The agreement was leaked by Twitter from user, I believe it's HK of the Social Democrats.
I want to know how the SDP got it.
Do you know what it is? It probably was the fact that Labour never cleaned their press office. That's what I would hypothesize.
Yeah.
However, it was out there and we reported on it, whether we should or not. I mean, it was there. It was on Twitter.
You're a press organisation. Don't apologise for reporting the
Exactly.
news.
We did our job.
Sorry, we have some news, everyone. I hope it doesn't offend you.
I hope this isn't offending.
We won't do it again. We promise.
I'll tell you what. I can give you some news if you'd like.
Go on then.
Go on.
I have just voted on an agreement. I won't say where, but I have just voted in favour
Northern
of a. I won't discuss where I voted, but
Wales.
I just voted in favour of an agreement.
Wow, what such ambiguous news.
I know, it's the
Nothing we
least
can do with
helpful lead.
In breaking news,
I have
leader of
just done
party
it. Could be any
votes
of
for
them.
agreement.
It
I
could
have
be
just done a
any
thing
of the devolved assemblies.
involving
any of them.
someone at some time, somewhere. So there. Thanks, Tristan. That is a scoop. That's a scoop.
Yes, and to summarise the leak, 60% top rate. What else was interesting that we kind of touched on? Reducing class sizes to 20 for the first 3 years of education, establishment of Social Security Scotland, free sanitary products in all schools. That's a Liberal Democrat policy. Very good one.
I've just realised how they were going to pay for it.
They were going to use this. They were going to use Scotland's Sovereign Wealth Fund.
The National Wealth Fund,
Oh.
correct.
That, that must be how they were going to do it, because they could run a huge deficit with that.
Correct.
There's confirmation. Not
That's-
that
No,
Wow,
we
that's-
didn't talk
that's
about
fif-
exactly how we're going to fund it. I mean, you see everything in the agreement here. We'll work it out when
That's
the
how
budget
you were
comes.
going
But
to do it, though, wasn't it?
well, I mean,
That's how you were going to pay for it.
if you
because
have
were cutting
16
taxes
billion
and
sitting in a
increasing
fund,
spending.
then why would you not use it? Not all of it.
I don't
obviously,
know.
that'd be
I don't
crazy.
know. Why did you put 16 billion in a fund to begin with? It's
I was like
ridiculous.
culture secretary at the time. Leave me alone.
You had the Westminster government borrow money so you could save it. It's ridiculous.
Genius, that's what it is. Yeah,
You should've just
planting a
given
million
borrowing powers.
trees.
It's absurd.
We managed to get
Do you
concessions.
agree with the Sovereign Wealth Fund?
Do I agree with the
Oh,
National Wealth
absolutely.
Fund?
Yeah.
Well, I think the National Wealth Fund has done a lot of good. When I was in the Greens, we used the National Wealth Fund when the Icelandic volcano erupted to deal with the damage that was in the Highlands and Islands communities. I think there's a lot of good that comes from
Come
it.
off it. Come off it. The Westminster government would have.
Come off it!
Come on.
Come on.
I know
Come
the
on,
Scottish
come on.
Conservatives.
You sat with the money doing nothing for.
Well, the money was
Search
used
for the aircraft.
to add up to what's the word? Make the books. What's the phrase? Something about books in my budget.
Something about
Balance the books. Balance the books.
Next he's going to be saying, we're taking £10 million here and there. It's all right.
It's just
all right.
books.
It's just £10 million.
You squirreled away money you could have spent on modernising our infrastructure in Scotland.
Well,
and
talking of
frankly, the Greens were punished for it.
talking of infrastructure in this leaked agreement, which probably won't be void after Freed shut it down, but we're still talking about it. Why not? 1 million trees, removing Prestwick Airport from public ownership, increased electric charging points, which I know the Classical Liberals support. Altercations to the Perth-Edinburgh Railway. That was a concession that the Liberal Democrats got, so that physics isn't broken.
Oh yeah, I presume the new trains are going to travel through time.
They're DeLorean
They're going
trains.
to No, you don't understand. They're going to travel faster than time.
Wait, that's copyright!
Anywhere.
Ofcom, and for the cabinet, First Minister Liberal Democrat, Deputy First Minister Green, Finance Labour. Yeah, that's that. I think that's it. Yeah, let's call it there. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. Thank you to our guests. We have.
Crash bang wallop, what a fucking stream.
Look, it's always more relaxed. The drop-in shows are always more relaxed. If you want to watch. If you want to watch a crisp, professional stream, you should go back and watch the election results, which are on our YouTube channel at mSky News Rebrew.
Oh, okay. Are you going to add this to your YouTube channel?
Maybe. Probably
Please,
not.
Please do.
We absolutely should.
I guess I have to. But yes, if you missed the election stream, it was great fun. Will was great. We were both very, very smooth.
Thank you.
Thank you. Shut up, Zukov. I ignored you half of the time. Yes, you can catch that on YouTube. I think there was something like 80 unique viewers during the stream, so thank you for everyone who turned out. I mean, sorry, Sky News has millions of viewers. What are you talking about?
Millions.
80 million.
80 million.
Yes, 80 million people turned out.
Who are all these
So
foreigners watching?
their math. So Sky News' math is almost as worse as the Green government.
God, I can't even do arithmetic.
Sky News International view.
Well, it's actually Sky News X Guardian Group now after the merger.
Yeah.
That is a horrific name.
That's not the name. I just made that up.
That's not the
It's
name.
Sky News, but it's
Sky
under
News
the Guardian
used
Group.
to operate under Sky News, but it's now under the Guardian. It's now part of the Guardian.
Yes.
You're like Rupert Murdoch, but twice as sinister.
Look.
That's Viljo. That's a good description of Viljo. That's.
Anyway, so thank you to our guests. We had Zukov, we had Twisted, we had Dunks, we had Dokra, we had PGR for a little bit, we had
Brandenburg,
we had Vlad the Lad, we had a statement from Wagbo, statement from Jordy. So thank you for everyone for turning out. Hope to see you next time, which will probably be the general election.
You mentioned
yes,
Dunks. He did mention Dunks.
Don't forget Dunks.
The almighty. Do you still have 20 tags?
Oh yeah, remember you had.
Are we still?
Yes.
Praise the Dun!
Let's thank you very much, everyone.